everybody, and welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast, sponsored by meltedpins.com. I am one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana, and with me, as always, it is Andy Asimakis, and he has a little bit of the flu, and he's here. He's recording with the flu.
Yeah,
how you doing, Andy?
I'm like that cliche sick guy on the podcast, that sick podcaster, which I hate so much right now.
It's usually me.
Just take a break and just not do a show for like a day. But
yeah, well,
what can you do?
Yeah, we always push forward.
Yeah.
We don't mess around.
We pay a lot for our craft and for our art.
Yes, especially in the new year of 2020.
Oh yeah,
it's
New Year.
Yeah, New Year, new us.
New Year, old problems.
Joining us this week is Mikael Forslind, the co-founder, CEO, and game designer over at Elden Pixels. They just recently concluded a successful Kickstarter campaign for Alwa's Legacy, the sequel, or prequel, I don't know, but the continuing in the saga of the Alwa's saga, as I refer to it as. Alwa's Awakening was the first one. Or at least the most recent one. Mikael, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very excited to have you back on the show.
Yes.
This is good stuff. So since you've been on, the last time you've been on the show, we have obviously rebranded. We've changed things around a little bit. You were on the show when it was a Nintendo-focused podcast, where we would talk about, Nindies and stuff like that. But now we really just want to get to know developers and their projects and their careers and all that fun stuff. So, listeners, if you're new to the podcast, that's what this is. This is an interview show where Andy and I bring on an industry guest to tell us their story and whatever fun project they might be working on. Everyone in the gaming industry, be it a programmer, an artist, or a voice actor, has a story to tell, and this is their platform to do so. The Dual Screens podcast posts each and every Thursday for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And remember, if you want to subscribe anywhere, it's really easy. You just hit that little sub button. Are you listening to this on YouTube right now, guys? Just hit that little sub button and the little bell. It's easy. Then you get notified whenever we have a new episode up. It's really cool. It's really, really fun, really easy to do. And of course, you can find all of our shows and our articles and pretty much everything that we do over at dualscreens.com. Please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts if that is your podcast service, because it helps the show out tremendously. You could also support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/NDS podcast. We cannot continue to grow without your support. Your support is what made this show possible. It has gotten us, Andy, if you want to just touch really quick on this, what are the different things that we were able to afford because of the support from our Patreon supporters?
These awesome microphones, for starters. Our lovely camera equipment for our awesome PAX East interviews last year, and coming up this year as well.
We were able to go to PAX. We were able, I believe we also were able to get me a streaming computer.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but we really can't do these kinds of things without your support. So please, if you like what you hear and you want to support the indie podcasters out there, as it were, go to patreon.com/NDS podcast, and as little as $1 gets you a bonus episode each and every month, plus access to our super secret VIP Discord channel, where you could talk to each other, talk to us, and talk to some of our indie dev guests who like to come in there and hang out and talk about games and stuff. Every dollar helps. Okay. So, Andy.
Yes.
You're a sick boy. What happened?
It's okay. It's life. It happens. I feel like I don't get sick often. Like my body just holds on to all the sick for like one mega sick. When it happens, it's like my body just shuts down completely. I'm on vacation right now. I'm in Philly for the new year. Which is nice. I planned the vacation and I got sick the day before I left for this vacation. That's fun. A lot of fun for me.
I've read somewhere that there are 3 flu types this year, like 3 strains of what the flu is.
I have all 3. I think it's what I want to say.
I was reading up on it because the flu shot this year is only for flu type A. And it's only 40% of the flu out there, which kind of makes you wonder,
Yeah, I think I have the mega flu.
You have the combination of all flu.
Yeah, I'm going for both distance and accuracy in all the projectiles of.
Yeah, I get it. But that's not what the show is about. But I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, it could be.
Okay.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, it absolutely could be. I mean,
but I feel bad
Michael,
for Michael right now because
he's got this.
Michael is coming back on the show at the second time on the show. So I want to ask you why did you want to come back on this podcast, knowing what you know from the first time?
No, it's always fun to go on podcasts and talk to fun video game interested people. So of course I'd be back. We were talking about this when like a couple of weeks ago, but due to the time differences, I'm in Sweden. We had a trouble finding an accurate time, but now we found a time that works for both of us. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you back. Alwa's Awakening was one of my favorites. It's very charming. It's a lot of fun. I think I actually reviewed it for the site. It was so long ago, I don't even remember. But so why don't we talk a little bit about that one first, and then we'll lead into what brought us to Alwa's Legacy. So tell our listeners what is Alwa first of all, and talk a little bit about the first game and how it went for you guys.
Yeah, Alwa is a land in the game Alwa's Awakening, and it was a game we've made. We worked on it for about 2 years, started development in 2015, and we released it on Steam in early 2017. So it was made like a hobby project. We did it outside of our normal day jobs, like on weekends and on nights, and we worked our asses off for almost 2 years trying to... Like, this was our first game, but still quite an elaborate project for our first game. And it was made by a team of 4. I worked as a level designer and game designer, and we had a musician who did the music and all sound effects, and we had 1 programmer, and we had a pixel artist. So, team of 4. And due to us having normal day jobs, we weren't able to release it on any other platforms besides Steam in early 2017 because it was a lot of work just finishing the game and getting out on one platform. So we did that in 2017, and then the plan was kind of to keep on working on our normal day jobs. Me and the programmer, who was also my coworker at another gaming studio, so we had our day jobs, which it was in the gaming industry as well. But our plan was to kind of keep on working and not do much more with the game. But during 2017, people kind of asked about, this was around when Switch was starting to become really popular, and everyone was asking for, should you release the game on Switch? And people were asking about PS4 and Xbox One and stuff like that. And we didn't really expect that because this was our first game. So in early 2018, like a little more than a year ago, 1 year and a half ago, we actually decided to quit our day jobs and pursue this whole indie development dream as a full-time job. So that was what we did in March 2018. We left our normal day jobs. It was me and the programmer. And then the artist started working with us as well. And as of last year, we've worked both releasing ports of Alwa's Awakening, and we also started developing on our new game, which is Alwa's Legacy.
So how do you quit your like, how does the funding go to support you being able to quit your job? Because that's something that comes up a lot with different developers that we've had on the show. Like some of them, we just went and started a studio. I feel like it's not that easy to just quit and be able to support yourself and if you have families and whatnot. I'm sure there's some hurdles there. Can you tell us a little bit about what goes into quitting your day job and actually starting a studio?
Yeah, that's quite a topic, and I could probably talk on hours about that. But I'd say in my case, I mean, it differs for everyone because there's different ways to sustain yourself financially. I mean, you can have either savings, or you can go borrow money, or you'd have your partner, wife, or husband, or whatever, or you can get an investor. So there's different possibilities to sustain yourself. In my case, I had savings, and I have a lovely wife that we've been together for 15 years. So, like, she went to school for a couple of years, I went to school for a couple of years, and throughout our 15 years, sometimes she had more money, sometimes I had more money. So the last 2 years, it was my turn to not make so much money. But Alwa's Awakening was successful enough to sustain, like, we have 2 employees at the moment, and we have an office, and we have equipment, and we have, we pay our bills, and we have everything going for us. Like, I am the one who's taken the low salary in this case, but everyone else on the project, including our external artists and external contractors which we hired for Alwa's Legacy, has been paid, properly, and they have been paid for what the time they spent. But the funds have dried up, and that was one of the reasons that we did a Kickstarter, which ended about, it's not a month ago, but almost a month ago now. And we raised enough money to sustain ourselves until April, March, summer next year, which is the plan to release Alwa's Legacy. But it's been a struggle. Like, as I said, everyone else besides me is making money off this project right now because they have salaries. But I'm taking the large hit of the financial hit and not making that much money. But hopefully, the game is going to come out summer next year, and hopefully it'll make some money. And if the product gets good reviews and sells enough, we'll be able to continue development on new games. But if it doesn't, I don't know what I do, but that's a problem I'll solve next summer. But as of now, we're getting by, and with the Kickstarter money, it's good enough to keep us working. But yeah, it's been tough, and I think it's getting tougher and tougher for every year you're making indie games. Like, I think for every year now, although the games industry is bigger and bigger, there's more people making games, and there's more money for each year. The industry is so diversified, so there's so many different people making games out there, and you need a huge success in order to keep on making games. So I think it's going to be very, very challenging for indie developers, unless you're one of those like top 10 or top 20 developers. That's always going to make, you're always going to have your Hollow Knights or Dead Cells or Minecraft or whatever game you're having. There's always going to be like 20, 30, 40 games out there. But the rest of us is going to be struggling for the couple coming years, I'd say.
Sure.
Right. But you guys also, to your credit, you launched a Kickstarter campaign for, when you're in a sea of like the Hollow Knights and the Shovel Knights, for example, you're not a huge IP, but you're able to, you have a large enough fan base that wanted more of this IP and the franchise. Yeah. And you guys actually smashed through a couple of your stretch goals as well in your campaign, which I feel was fantastic. And I love seeing a game like this get the support that it deserves from its fan base.
Yeah, I think every time I'm complaining, I kind of feel like I shouldn't complain, because in our position as Elden Pixels, we have it far better than a lot of other indies, because we have a brand, we have a title out there before we quit our day job. So like, we already had a game out there making us money, and Alwa's Awakening is making money. So it's not like we're totally strapped for cash. It is selling copies each day. So in our sense, I think the Alwa's Awakening brand was quite strong already. So that's why we were able to have a successful Kickstarter and raise money for Alwa's Legacy. But it's struggling. But I wouldn't do this whole indie trip if I didn't feel confident that both Elden Pixels and the Alwa's Awakening games and Alwa's Legacy games was going to be successful, because I think they are, and I think they will. So that's why I'm sitting here.
Right. And you guys also, if I recall correctly, you sort of found that Nintendo Switch crowd when you launched on the platform. I believe it was you had sold as many or more so in the first week on Switch than on Steam in its first month. Yeah, of release, definitely. Which is incredible.
Yeah, I think it has to do with, I'm a huge Nintendo fan and always been, and as many others, I grew up playing the old NES and Super Nintendo games as well. So, like, I wouldn't say Alwa's Legacy and Alwa's Awakening are Nintendo games in that sense, but they have like a Nintendo, feeling to it. I mean, they're kind of based on the old NES games, and so that's why we catered to the Nintendo crowd, and Alwa's Legacy still does that. So a lot of the fans we have are people like us that grew up playing these games, and that's why Switch has been very successful for us, and Alwa's Legacy is probably going to be very successful on Switch too, I guess. It's kind of hard to say because Switch it's not old news, but it's not as exciting as it was like a year, 2 years ago. So, and there are so many Switch games coming out there, but I think Alwa's Legacy is going to be successful on Switch.
There's a lot of games coming out, but there's also, I mean, they're selling so many units at this point.
Yeah.
Like especially through this past holiday season, it was kind of bananas. It was outselling everything.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see how many more diamonds in the rough you're going to get on a Nintendo Switch. Because I feel like where Steam kind of becomes the place where you just say, oh, that's on sale, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, or whatever. And then you only play like maybe 10% of them. Whereas Switch, I feel like there's a little bit more of a barrier to entry. There's a little bit more of hesitancy when buying something that when you do buy it and it does speak to you, you actually end up playing it and putting some time into it. And that's where you could kind of really foster a nice little fan base for certain games. Most recently I would say like Duck Game was like that, where it was kind of like, it's a single screen game. It's a multiplayer game, but like, I feel like the community behind that was pretty large. There's other games out there like that I feel like would really stand out if they were given the chance. So can you talk a little bit about what coming to the Switch, a little bit more specifically about what coming to the Switch did for the Alwa's brand and for Elden Pixels and all that kind of stuff?
I'd say like Switch was the first console release of Alwa's Awakening. We did that fall of 2018. So we had a successful launch and we sold many copies, and we're still selling copies on full price, which is very different compared to Steam, where you're basically selling units only when you're on sale. Like that's a lot of Steam games are. But we've never actually put the Switch version on sale yet. We are planning to, but we haven't got around to doing it yet. But I mean, I think like once you get your console game out, you kind of moving, like you climbing the ladder of indie development, because I mean, I wouldn't say easy to release on Steam, but it's the barrier to entrance on Steam for a developer is so low today. So you can basically get your any game out there basically. But releasing on console is so much more work, and once you've done that, you kind of move up one step on the ladder, which I think is cool, and it makes you like more verified is not the correct word, but I say it makes legitimate. You more legitimate developer. And I think that puts more eyes on you, and it also raises the bar on like people's expectations, because as many other creators probably had said, like you're making this game, like when we started Alwa's Awakening, there was just something we made for fun. Like I didn't design this game knowing that there would be 10,000s of people playing the game. I just designed what I thought would be fun. And here you are 4 years later talking about, specific design choices you made like 3 years ago. And that's kind of interesting now when releasing Alwa's Legacy, that the bar that people expect, like the quality of game people are going to expect, is going to be so much higher. So that's kind of daunting. Every design choice you make now for Alwa's Legacy, that people is going to be like not complaining, but discussing, having issues, and stuff like that. And that's kind of,
you're under a microscope now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's good as well, because it's always cool. It's cool that you have people that actually expect you to make a good game because they thought Alwa's Awakening was a good game, and now you have eyes on you. So at the same time, it's daunting. It's also exciting to knowing that there's a lot of people that want to play your next game.
Yeah, so now we expect real answers. You can't just be like, I don't know, does having a good time. It was a hobby. Get off my back.
Yeah, exactly. And especially now with the Kickstarter backers, because that's also scary, because not only you have to deliver a good game, you have to deliver a game, because you were already taking money from we had almost 1,000 backers, and they expect the game to be finished because we have their money. So it's scary, but at the same time very fun and rewarding.
That would make for a fun chat, like a post-mortem, like development compared to you're just in your room with your team versus now it's all your backers yelling at you with comments and feedback along the way. Yeah. Let's revisit that one day, Stephen. That should be a good conversation to have with these developers.
Kickstarter kickback. All right. So, what do you think worked with Alwa's Awakening? What do you think was hitting home with people? Was it the nostalgia tickle? I know that's what hooked me in at first, but then you actually have some pretty cool gameplay elements in there. What do you think worked?
That's an interesting question, because it's hard for me to say. I can only base my reply on what I read on people's reviews and stuff like that. But I'd say right off if you took a screenshot of Alwa's Awakening, it's a quite colorful look. You have the 8-bit NES aesthetics, and you have colorful palette, and it's a nice looking sprite and a nice looking background. So when you see a screenshot, you immediately get hooked. And then I'd say the music, which was a big, we're still getting comments about the music. I wouldn't say daily, but weekly, people are commenting about how good the music is. So, and that was made by Robert Krese, who's our musician. And that was the instant hook, because if you have a good looking game, people's going to be interested in it. But then when people started playing, I think what we tried to create with Alwa's Awakening was a game that really both felt and looked and played like an authentic NES 8-bit game. A lot of the games that were coming out a couple of years ago said they were 8-bit, but in fact they weren't really 8-bit. So we tried to really nail it, both when it came to design and look. And I think that would kind of set us apart, but because there aren't that many games that really nailed the look and the gameplay, I'd say. There are a few, but not that many. And I think that was one of the strengths. And it turned out to be a good game. It was well designed and funny, and the right amount of challenging. So yeah, I think it turned out quite well.
Was there anything that didn't work that you were going to adjust going into Legacy?
I wouldn't say there are a lot of things that didn't work, but the design document that started when we started with the Elvis Legacy was basically built on we gathered all the comments we had, user reviews and stuff, and just made a list of 10 points that people weren't that fond of for Alwa's Awakening. Okay, so I can name a few. People were commenting about her speed. She's very slow compared to other modern games. She moves very slow, and that was something we've heard during development of Alwa's Awakening. But we did increase her speed a little. But no one really had that much to say about her speed during our beta phase, which was we had close to 100 people playing the game. But we made a list of 10 issues that people had with the first game. And basically, we set out to solve those for Alwa's Legacy. And I'm happy to say we've solved 8, maybe 9, depending on who you. Yeah, and the last part, I'm never going to say what we haven't fixed. I'm just going to say we fixed pretty much everything. That was we had a few things we couldn't fix. It was just let's not just have that in the Alwa's Legacy. We just remove it, so then we don't.
So no, it was always going to be a follow-up to Awakening. When you set out to make this new game, now you've gone full-time into game development, the vision was to make a follow-up to Alwa's Awakening. It wasn't to do a new project or a new IP altogether.
Now, I think the thing is, when we released the first game, it was just as, during our normal day jobs. So when we went into starting our own company, it wouldn't have made sense for us to start a completely new game or a completely new IP, because the day one of our studio and working with this as full time, we didn't even have a web page because we couldn't do any of this when we were releasing Alwa's Awakening. So right off the start, we had to make a website. We had to have a logo for our company. We had to register, sign with Microsoft, sign with PlayStation, sign with Nintendo in order to have all those stuff. So in order to properly focus on getting the company up and running, making the website, making sure we have our employee contracts and all that stuff, like that's a lot of work. If we at the same time were to have lots of design meetings and decide on every single stuff, making a whole new game, that would have been an insane amount of work. Mm-hmm. If we went into starting the company and at the same time took whatever we had from the first game and just built upon that, improving, making stuff, we skipped a lot of the design meetings because we already know what worked from the first game. We just took what worked from the first game and built upon it, making it better. That for us was the logical thing to do. Like then I could spend like a week, doing corporate stuff, getting finance stuff set up, and the other artists and designers and programmers could just finish stuff, working on the game and stuff like that. And I thought that was the good thing to do in this position. It's going to be interesting going forward, though, after Alwa's Legacy is released. Then we could do. Then we can start a completely new product because now we have all the systems and the companies up and running.
So what is the approach like when you tackle a game like Legacy? Because Awakening was it was an 8-bit game.
Yep.
And now you're going to it looks like a 16-bit SNES title.
Yep.
How does that work day to day in terms of the pixels and the approach? And now you're adding more frames of animation for the characters, and there's a lot more background action going on in terms of detail and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say we've underestimated how much work it'd be, because I was kind of like wouldn't say producer, but the programmer was a producer on our previous job, and I was kind of like a project manager before. So we were both quite, good at estimating how much work game development is. But in hindsight, it was a bit of an underestimate as well, because when we've increased the resolution, we increased the animation, we increased how many different kind of styling you can have in each room. Like you have drop shadow, we have different light sources. You could swap what kind of clothes. So the main character of Alwa's Legacy is wearing, like you using code. All of these, like for us, small design choices added a lot of complexity in the end. Like in the first game, we had like 10 different layers of art, but now we have like 20, like we doubled the amount of layers because there's so many more different kinds of styling that we need to do. And the whole complexity of styling and added a lot of more work than we thought we'd have. But I'd say what the biggest challenge was, but when we had Alwa's Awakening, we could just, boot up any old NES game. You could, play your Zelda or play your Mario game and check how would the animation work? How would a screen transition work? How would a save system work? And you basically had a rule book that you could just look at. Now when we're doing Alwa's Legacy, we're not really following any Super Nintendo rules or anything like that. We're just making the game we want to make. So at the same time, there's no rule book to look at. So instead, you could just, that makes it so much harder, because you have to, we're adding this lighting system, but how should the lighting system work? And there's so many people having opinions how you light pixel art, for example. Like we spend an eternity trying to decide how we should light the pixel art, because there are people doing old style retro and there's modern stuff. And basically, that took a lot of work. So I'd say that was one of the most challenging part, trying to figure out how the game should look and how we should play, which was something we struggled at. But I think we've nailed a good look now. And judging from the reaction we had when we announced our Kickstarter trailer, people seem to really think it looks good, and that makes us really happy.
Right, because if you look at a series like Mega Man, that game had about 6 entries on the original Nintendo where it didn't really change the aesthetic at all.
Yeah.
So you could have easily done like a follow-up game with just the same 8-bit sprites, with just different levels, different abilities, kept it simple. Did you feel like you had to evolve the look of this IP going to Kickstarter or going out for a follow-up game?
Never really thought about that. Maybe in hindsight, we should just have, a simple sequel. Yeah, that would be so much easier. I don't know. Good thing. I think like when we started working on this full time, we didn't have anything but an idea. We didn't have any art. We didn't have anything. We had a small mock-up, and that mock-up came from our artist. And I think he just drew whatever he wanted to draw, because as an artist, I mean, I shouldn't speak for the artist, but since he had the limitations, we were kind of strict about keeping it 8-bit. So we've only used like 4 colors per sprite and stuff like that. And as an artist, although it's nice to have the limitation, in some sense, it's kind of hindering. So he went out and created a mock-up that didn't have any limitations when it came to colors and stuff like that. And out came the look that basically is what Alwa's legacy now today. So, yeah.
So it's just kind of like a natural evolution. Like you just wanted to make something a little bit prettier and bigger in scale.
Yeah.
And might have just underestimated how much work that would have been, but it seems like you're on the right path now.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the Kickstarter situation. So you've blown through some of your goals here. What has been what's the back and forth like with your Kickstarter people? I've Kickstarted plenty of stuff in my day. I know Andy way more than me.
Oh, also for full discretion, I am a backer of Alwa's legacy, just so our listeners know.
I think I might be too. I don't remember. I might have missed it.
Thank you.
Just so that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you the one sending out threatful messages every day?
Just like yeah. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about the back and forth. Like, what is that like? What is it? What is day to day like? What do you feel like you have to tell your Kickstarter backers? What do you feel like? How do you balance that? Because I feel like as a person that has backed things before, it's almost like just tell me like the big updates, and then some games I'm like, wait, is anything going on? I haven't heard anything in months. Some games you forget you even backed because there's no communication whatsoever, and then like 6 months later you'll get this big whole drop of everything going on. What's your approach to your Kickstarter campaign?
So far, it's only been like a little less than a month, so we haven't there hasn't been so much communication yet, and also it's been Christmas, so we've been quiet now for a week or two. But I come from a background that I used to be a marketing manager before I started game designing. So my background is always, transparency and talking to community and doing social media and being, being upfront and honest about everything. So like, I'm not going to post every day, but I'm going to post like, I would say every other week or every third week about something. And so far we've been good at that. And there has been no like negative backlash or anything about that, because we just been honest about everything. So, and we've designed our Kickstarter to be very, very like simple, not only for us to handle, but for people to back. Like we basically had different tiers, and for every tier you just got whatever you had in the previous tier. So it was easy to follow, and it was easy for us to handle. So we did get a lot of questions about, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to add that, and I want to, have add-ons and stuff like that. And we were kind of hesitant about doing too much, special stuff for different tiers, because at the end we want to make sure we can finish the game and not have spent, ages and years, doing Kickstarter rewards. So what we did, we have basically only digital rewards, and we have a few of them that has t-shirts and digital prints. But already now, like a few weeks after the Kickstarter campaign has ended, we're already on good track to, you know, doing the T-shirts, doing the digital prints, and it shouldn't be much more work than, you know, sending an email. So I think when it comes to delivering all the assets, we shouldn't be a problem at all. So we're quite calm about it, and everyone's been nice to us on Kickstarter. So now I feel really good about it.
I'm sorry, Andy. I did confirm I am a backer.
Cool.
I'm backer number 187. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Andy, what's your backer number? Do you know? Let's get some bragging rights.
I can check right now. It's probably annoying me. But I did want to mention there's a comment here that made me laugh. Someone just copied and pasted a bad review for like Alwa's Awakening and was like, here are the issues that this person had with the game. How are you going to address it? It's like, fuck you, buddy. Like, what's going on?
Not at all. I did a polite answer on that, and he had some, you know, he or she had some valid points which I addressed, and I think I replied to all of his comments. But you know, valid points. But at the same time, he posted a negative review of the game, so it's kind of hard for me to. Well, sure, there's always going to be people that don't like the games. I mean, they could, if the person doesn't like the game, I'm not sure. You're probably not going to like it.
Right, but it just seems weird to me. Like you've backed the game, then you're just going to post a bad review of the previous game.
I know.
What's the end result there? Let me look up my backer number.
Yeah. But
very exciting stuff for you guys. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I feel really good about it. I mean, the game is shaping out nicely, and it's going to be a good game, and everyone's been really positive about how it looked and how it plays. And we have a demo out there for if you have a selected tier, you could get the demo, and everyone's really seems to enjoy it, and that makes us calm and, you know, feel good about it.
So aside from the look, how has the gameplay evolved as well in Alwa's Legacy?
Yeah, it's much more faster. Like in the first game, she kind of moves in a quick pace, but in this game, she basically runs everywhere, which makes the game more fluid and fun to play. And we've added a bunch of new upgrades. So you have your basic mechanics, which we had from the first game. You have your magical block, and you have your magical bubble, and you have your magical like offensive projectile lightning bolt kind of. And we still have those in Alwa's Legacy, but now you could upgrade them and choose whatever path you want to choose with them. So we basically like a small skill tree, which you can enable and find different upgrades. And that's really changes how you can play. Like if you want to play offensive, you can do that. If you want to play more strategic, you can do that. If you want to play explorative, you can do that. So basically we're trying to give the player the more control of how they play the game. And gameplay, the game is more open, so you are kind of led by design to different places. Like there are different castles that you are led to, but if you want to break out that intended order, you can just upgrade and get whatever item you want in any order you want, and you can basically go to the fourth temple or the third temple or whatever temple in any order you want, which is we think is going to be really cool, and so far people are responding well to it. But what was kind of interesting is when we made her speed so much faster and her jump and her arch kind of like she jumps very far and she jumps kind of high and she's very, very fast. So when we started development, we tried to, you know, have like, for example, you had like 5 different jumps in a room, but we kind of quickly realized that due to her speed and her very long jump, you have to scale it down to like 2 good precise platform jumps, because we still have the setup of, you know, room for room. So if you have your one screen open, you still have one room. We do have scrolling rooms in this game, but most of the games is played room for room, and that was kind of tricky because how did you design good fun platforming jumps when you're just 2 jumps out of, you know, leaving the room? So that was quite a challenge as well. But the scrolling rooms is cool because then you have more rooms to navigate through, and I think those works as well.
That's pretty cool. Like just having the 2 different styles. And so when you realize there's a problem with the jumping and the platforms and stuff like that, how long does something like that take to adjust and iterate on? Like, I'm asking very elementary questions about game design, and that's mostly because some of our listeners have no idea what's going on. Some of them are aspiring developers, and me, I'm completely ignorant to make how video games are made. I just play them with my dumb tongue sticking out. This is fun. Doo doo boop bloop bleep bloop. So when you come to a problem like that, like, is it just, hey, let's try less platforms here, and then like a day or two later you have something to play? Like, what's that like?
And basically, we just early from the start, we've made sure that we had all the rooms in the game. Like, you could, like, almost a year ago, you could play the entire game from start to finish, but most rooms were boring and they were empty and they didn't have anything in them. But you could play them. Like, we were sure that the whole Metrovania puzzle were there. You had all the items, and we've had that for more than a year. And throughout development, we're just, making sure that each room progresses and becomes better and better and better. So, like, we play the game and we realize, okay, this platform needs to be a bit shorter, it needs to be a little longer, higher. And for every week, we just iterate on the different rooms and add more content and more polish and more better tweaked jumps. And now we're in a place where the platforming is good, the flow is good, and basically what we're doing now is just wrapping everything up and polishing and adding more style and flair and shadowing and then fun stuff.
One of the most underrated things in game design that I've found, and it could make or break my experience, are game menus.
Okay.
When menus are ass, Andy, I don't know if you feel this way, but I've been playing Death Stranding. And
I was gonna say, if you start playing Death Stranding yet,
man, what the hell are they doing with these menus, man? I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait. First of all, I'm playing on a 55-inch goddamn television, and I could barely read this text, barely.
Oh, there's an update. They got to update.
Yeah, I updated, but maybe I have to actually physically change it.
Size. Yeah,
no, that is ass. Not only that, but they're throwing like 5,000 million things at you at one time. I'm like, wait, what? You're giving me acronyms for shit that I don't even know what it means. You don't explain it.
Hello, welcome to Kojima.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you have your gameplay, you have you're known for the music, you're known for the sprite work, you have your Metroidvania gameplay. Talk about the minutia. Talk about like the really like interesting things like that we don't really think about when coming into game design. What are these things that us as a player would never normally think of is a hurdle for you?
Yeah, like UI design and user experience design is like a whole different science, and I don't really know that much about it. Like, I know what I've learned from other games and playing video games since I was a child, but that was also a whole level of complexity because as I said before, in the 8-bit look, you only had you had your A and you had your B button and your start and select. So that was basically the buttons we used when we designed Alwa's Awakening. So when we designed the menus, we didn't have many buttons to choose from. Now when you have, we're designing it for like a modern controllers, you have so many more buttons. But I think the menu, like we spent forever designing the menu and made sure that it's reachable from in-game, because in Alwa's Awakening you had to quit the menu in order to, if you wanted to change subtitling or if you wanted to change the audio settings. But now we made sure that everything you can change it from within the game. And that was complex to say the least for us, since this is only our second game. But I think we managed to design a menu that both looks really good and works really well. But what's fun about designing this stuff, that this is stuff that you only notice if it's bad. Like you never played a game and it's like, oh, how I like how that main menu works. You're never going to say that. You're just going to notice like if you played something really, really bad, like as you said, Death Stranding. So I remember like I spent a couple of weeks, designing the menu, and then we showed it to a couple of friends, like, how's this? And you just scroll through the menu for like 20 seconds, and yeah, it works. Like, yeah, and you can't expect, that's it. Like, we spent 3 months on this. Like, you should hug us because it's so good. But yeah, this is good. But they won't say that because they would only say something to us if it's really bad. But we have something that's good, and I think it works really well now.
I think that sounds like Steven's marriage in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we just point out the flaws at any chance you can.
As a side note, I am backer 184.
Ooh, 3 better than me.
Before there. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Too much.
Yeah, I noticed that the map system in some of the more like Jedi Fallen Order is a really fun game, but man, is that map just miserable. It's just and they tried to make it practical where the droid is projecting the map and you're kind of looking at it from the character's perspective, which all right, it's cool for like immersion, but it is not functional for a gamer. Like I don't know, that stuff always fascinates me when you make design choices between we can make this look cool or we can make it work. Let's go with look cool. Yeah, the players don't need to know where they're going in this game.
Yeah,
it's a distraction. If you give them some nice visuals, they won't complain too much.
Right.
Which sounds like Rise of Skywalker. You did see that yet?
No, I didn't. You shut up.
So, do you guys, when you design a game, do you look at what other indie devs are doing? Like, okay, let's say you have an idea how other devs have done a similar kind of concept, or you just go like, this is our own thing. How does that work with you guys in terms of influence and stuff like that?
I think it varies from discipline to discipline. I mean, Alwa's Legacy is still the same. We've kind of switched teams now. Like we've have a few new team members because our lead programmer who spent he did Alwa's Awakening and he did like 1 year and a half on Alwa's Legacy. He recently actually left the company, which was unfortunate. But I think it varies from discipline to discipline because during Alwa's Awakening, I looked at a lot of different NES games. Like I played so many different NES games, and I looked at the design videos, and I looked at, I read everything I could find about game design, and I played every single NES games I could find that I thought was relevant to our case. But now during Alwa's Legacy, part of me, I haven't really looked at other games now for Alwa's Legacy because it's a sequel, so we kind of know what we're building upon. Like we know what we improve, we know how we want it to look. What I did look at other games for was stuff like I didn't know that much about, like UI design, main menus, and like for an example, we've added ambient sound to Alwa's Legacy. So if you're in like a forest level or something like that, you can basically hear small birds in the background, or you can hear water and waterfalls and stuff like that. And that's very different to how NES game development was because you didn't have that. We have actual sound effects in this game, and that's something. Like, how do you set the sound levels for something like that? Like, should you have a setting for the ambient sound? Should it be included in the sound effect settings, or should it be optional? Should you be able to turn it off? Like, maybe you don't want to hear the birds, in the background. Should you be able to turn it off? And that's for those kind of things. I looked at different games, and then I looked at whatever modern game I could find, like to see how were these sound settings in this game. But when it came to basic gameplay and looks, I didn't really look at other games. But I think for our artist who does all the animation and all the all the artwork, I think he kind of looked at different games because there's a whole slew of different retro games to find inspiration from. And our artist BG, who's a really talented artist, he's very much inspired by all the Sega Genesis, Sega Mega Drive games. So he looked a lot of them, I'd say.
What excites you the most about Alwa's Legacy?
Like when I play it, or when I release it, like when it's going to be out, or when I play it
as the developer, just like outside of like seeing what people think of it, but when you're playing the game, what excites you the most? What do you think is the selling point of Alwa's Legacy?
I think it's fun the way you could play. Every time I play the game, you could go find another way through the game. Like you could take whatever temple you want in whatever random order you want, and you can find whatever item you want in whatever way you want, and you can upgrade however you want. So I'd say, since we do spend an enormous amount of time playing the game and finding bugs and making sure everything works, I think it's always fun because every time I make sure to find a new way through the game. Like, oh, what if I go this way and pick up that item? Oh, okay, maybe I can do that. And I'd say one of the funniest thing about development is when you kind of talk within the team, like, okay, I did this now. Okay, would that be possible to go to that section there instead? Kind of like a speed running, but not in that sense. I don't play the game for speed, but like trying to find different ways to not break the game, but to find new exciting ways to play the game. I'd say that's what I still think is the best part about Alwa's Awakening, and it's going to be even more fun now with Alwa's Legacy to definitely see how people play the game and whatever way they find through the game, I'd say.
Have you guys broken the game at all in any kind of runs in the office?
Is it broken the game?
Yeah, like ever a time where someone's like, "Oh, I kind of beat the game in 10 minutes because of this one weird break over here."
Yeah, definitely. Like we have a known bug, which is like a collision bug. Like you can easily kind of skip out through out of bounds through the game. We know about this, and it's easy fix. It's just time consuming, and we won't spend time on that until we're kind of very, very late in development. When all the levels are done, then we're going to fix the collision. But right now, you can quite easily break through the walls and stuff like that, and that's always crazy. And you can always break the game. Normally in the outdoors part of the areas in Alwa's Awakening, like we place invisible roof. So in dungeons, you can always go left, right, and up and down and fully explore however you want. But outdoors, we don't want to put we don't have a ceiling. So because then it wouldn't feel like an outdoors area. So what we do in those outdoors areas, we just place invisible ceilings so it looks like an open sky, but in fact there's blocked. And we haven't done that yet. So every now and then we have people exploring the game, and they kind of explore upwards, in the outdoors area, and then they just stumble upon a place they shouldn't be. Oh no, you're not allowed to go there. And we're gonna add those invisible ceilings, when we're closer to release. But
I would leave one ceiling open with like a secret chest or like a little or something in there.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be so much more secrets in this game compared to the first one.
That's awesome. Andy, any final questions on the Alwa's Awakening / Legacy?
No, I think I'm very excited for this game. We're both backers, proud backers. I have the demo. I've yet to play it. Maybe at some point I'll get around to that. But I think we can move on to sponsor stuff and then rapid fire goodness.
Yes. All right. So before we get to know you a little bit better with our rapid fire questions, I want to tell everybody about our sponsor, Melted Pins. Melted Pins is a website run by artist Kelsey Lynn that sells tattoo art inspired pins, buttons, canvas bags, mugs, and T-shirts, and all sorts of fun stuff. It's all 100% original designs, hand drawn, and you could support this small business and this local artist by going to meltedpins.com and using the checkout code NDSmelted, and you'll get 10% off of your purchase. That's meltedpins.com, checkout code NDSmelted, and you'll get 10% off of your purchase. You could follow Melted Pins on all social media at Melted Pins. Very simple. All right, so check out those designs if something tickles your fancy. Use the promo code NDSmelted, and you will get 10% off of your purchase. That's meltedpins.com, promo code NDSmelted. All right, Andy, it is time.
Oh yes,
it is time to get into our rapid fire questions, and let's start off with one of our longest standing questions, one of our biggest debated topics on any of our shows, and that is, does pineapple belong on pizza? Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? That's the question.
For me, definitely yes. I love pineapple on pizza. Why wouldn't you?
Wow. I think we're 6 for 6 here, Andy. How does it feel to be on the wrong side of history?
Don't worry about that. The day I'll have my day yet.
Right.
It's gonna come back. Michael, if I were to give you a giraffe and you couldn't give it away or you couldn't sell it, what would you do with it?
Like a live
giraffe. Yes.
We're on the second floor now at the office, and we have large windows facing the street. So I'd probably build a small, sealed off area right next to the office here, and then it would probably be prime height for him to peek into the window as we're doing our development. And I think our city would be perfectly fine with that.
Wow, that was you didn't have to think about that.
No. It's not the first time I had that question.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Me too.
Yeah.
If you were shipwrecked on an island, what game would you hope was with you on that boat?
I'd say, without having played it, I'd say Civilization. They're up to 6 now, right?
6, yeah.
Wow.
Yes. I played the first 1, 2, 3, and up to 4, I think. Haven't played 5, haven't played 6, but
5 wasn't that good.
I would love part 6 as well. So Civilization 6, I'd say. That would probably keep me busy for a lot of hours.
What's your favorite video game console of all time?
Also a good question. The obvious choice for me would be to say the NES, but I'm gonna be tricky here and say the Nintendo Wii, due to one reason, because that was kind of. I've always been into video games, but I had a break when I didn't play any video games at all, which was my mid-20s. But the Nintendo Wii released when I was around 27 or something like that. And that kind of made me rediscover my love for video gaming. And I played so many retro games on the Nintendo Wii. I played all the games from my childhood again, on the Nintendo Virtual Console. And that was kind of what led me into... eventually I became an organizer of a retro game convention, and that was what led me to the gaming industry, and that eventually led me to sitting here doing a podcast with you guys. So I'd say Nintendo Wii.
Sweet.
All right.
Yeah.
Describe the perfect omelet.
Ooh, it's a good one.
This is going to be a boring answer, but I would say a pan with nothing in it, because I don't eat omelet.
Oh.
Whoa. No omelet.
This is the kind of person that tells you he likes pineapple on pizza, does not eat omelets. So it's not always what you think, Steven, okay?
Right.
Pineapple on the omelet then. How about that?
So if you don't eat omelet, are you anti-eggs? Is that what's happening here?
No. I eat scrambled. No, I eat eggs and I eat scrambled eggs. I just don't eat omelets. But I could probably.
Oh, so it's a French thing. You don't.
Yeah,
that's what it is. I get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't do it. I could probably start. I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep.
That's what we do here at Dual Screens. We get people to feel guilty about never eating an omelet.
Yeah.
We'll just fold the cheese into the pineapple, then throw some egg in there. He'd be fine. Throw in the pan.
There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Where was your favorite place to vacation to?
We went to Austria 2 years ago, me and the wife, and we absolutely fell in love with the huge, mountains and the different settings there, and the calm atmosphere and the environment. We rented this Airbnb, which was the most expensive Airbnb I ever rented. It was a couple of $100 a night, which was insanely expensive for us. But they had this huge balcony, and the balcony was bigger than my entire apartment, and it was looking out on the mountains, and we had this cool thunderstorm, and we were so high up in the mountains, so the clouds were kind of underneath the mountains almost, and it was one of the coolest experiences I ever had, and we decided we should go back there eventually. But now, me being a developer, we don't really have the cash, but maybe once Elva's Legacy out, we'll be able to go back. So I'd say Austria.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which do you find more challenging, being a game developer or a new father? Congrats, by the way, on the baby.
Yeah. Yes, both are. I'm doing both right now. My son is 7 months, almost 8 months now.
That's when things really start getting interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I don't think I can choose one. I'd say, yeah, very very tough. I'd say both are very challenging in different ways, but both are very fun as well.
Which do you regret more, being a developer? No, I'm kidding.
All right, you walk into a bar and you're gonna order a drink. What's the drink you're getting?
Like drink as a drink, or could I get a beer or a glass of wine?
Of course you can. Whatever your preference is. You walk into a bar, you say, "Barkeep, give me a blank."
Sweden and Gothenburg have a good a lot of local breweries, like mini breweries. So I'd say some handcrafted, artsy beer. I'd say maybe like a dark beer, a porter, something like that. Very high alcohol, like if you have like an alcohol percentage of 8 or 9, something like that. I'd say.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're looking to get you're looking to get 1.5 beers, giving you a nice little buzz. I like it.
Yeah.
The cut of your jib.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of town as well, so there's a lot of cool beer bars just around the corner here.
Would you rather have the power of flight or the power of invisibility?
I'd say flight. Like, what am I going to do with invisibility?
Am I the only scumbag that wants to be invisible?
Yes, you are. Because there's not, as we've said on the show, there's nothing but nefarious things that you can do while invisible.
Yeah, exactly.
Very wrong.
Yeah, I'd say flight. Both are good.
All right. So we're gonna wind down here. We're gonna give you. This is our final question. It's the question that we've given every guest that we've had so far, and it's probably the most important question you're ever going to be asked in your entire life. Okay, it's very important.
Okay.
All right. So clear your mind. I want to hear the answer right off the top of your head. Andy or Steve?
I'm going to have to say both, of course.
Okay. All right. It's a safe answer. I get it.
You know what that means?
I get it.
He wanted to pick the scumbag, but he couldn't do it. So that's a win in my column.
After the invisible comment. God, there's just honestly, there's nothing you could do that is
You can also fly if you're invisible. Just go on the plane. Just walk through security.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
Or rob a bank and pay for a flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see? Rob, steal, sneak. That's all you do when you're invisible.
It's not a moral question, though. It's what would you rather have, flight or invisibility? Not how you would use
I would rather have flight because I am not a douchebag. So I'm not going to get good use out of being invisible. I'm not. Like, what could everything that you would do as an invisible person is nefarious.
Yes.
Everything.
It is.
I'm not a nefarious person. That's why I don't want to be invisible. Like maybe having something that is invisible,
listen, like you can't do nefarious things and fly away after the fact. You can't punch someone in the face.
Well, yeah, but you could still be God. Like you could still be shot out of the sky by a plane or a jet or something. You could get. I don't know that somebody can still point a gun at you up in the sky and shoot you if you're being an idiot.
Right.
You still have to abide by airspace law, I would imagine. I just think that it would be cool to be like, hey, all right, I'm going to go see, grandma, and you just fucking jump and fly.
Just jump and fly.
And you're there in like 5 minutes. I feel like that's every single person's dream is just to not ever have to sit in a car again.
Grandma in her house. Not knowing that she knows you're there?
No. Listen, I'm not denying that invisibility wouldn't be more fun. It absolutely would be more fun.
That's why, the fun factor. That's probably why I picked it.
You could be a ghost.
You could do good things and be invisible.
Can you name one? Because
let's say I want to infiltrate a neo-Nazi.
Again, infiltrate, nefarious, sneak. Okay.
It's for the greater good, though.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about Nazis here. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. You know who would pick invisibility over flight?
I'm afraid what you're going to say.
Plankton. Plankton would... Yes, so that he could steal the Krusty Krab formula.
Right.
Which I'm pretty sure happens in an episode. I think he does have some sort of invisibility or whatever.
Sure.
Wow, this... I love that question. That's a good question. It always sparks a good conversation. Usually just between us.
Right.
This is like the 18th time we've had that conversation, that argument.
Just reaffirm how much of a scumbag I am, which I don't mind at all.
Right. Just really just doubling down
just to solidify.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, you could do so. We are at NDS Podcast. I am at BatChild27. Andy is at PantsGuy. And our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/dual-screens-podcast. Michael, where could everybody find you guys?
We're Elden Pixels on pretty much all social media. And our game, Alwa's Legacy, is aiming to a release in April, May, or summer of 2020. So in about 6 months or so.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome sauce. Well, good luck with everything. We look forward to playing it and hearing more about it as you're ramping up development, because I mean that's going to sneak up on us very, very quickly, and I'm very excited to get my hands on it.
Thank you.
Listeners, if you want to watch us stream, you could do so on twitch.tv/dual-screen-streams. You could send us emails at feedback@ndspodcast.com. And you could shop at our store on teespring.com/stores. And this is the wrong one. You have the wrong link in here again. I've changed this before, Andy. I've changed it on previous documents. And now I'm going to make sure I have the right... I did. I'm going to make sure I have the right one.
Just copy and paste the last one until I do every single time.
No.
That's all I do.
No, you don't. You've never done that correctly in your life. It is teespring.com/store/dual-screens-shop. And that is dual screen shop. Dual like E, like fighting, like us. That's what we do. So don't be an idiot. Okay? Go buy some stuff. All right? Thank you. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/NDS podcast, as I have said before. That is it. This has been yet another exciting installment of the Dual Screens podcast. Andy, is there anything you want to tell the listeners before we go?
Yeah, I want to ask Michael one more question. Do you regret coming back on the show?
No, not at all. I love to come back again.
Awesome.
I'll come back once the game is out.
Fantastic.
Hell yeah.
That's all I want to say.
That's all you got. All right. We don't know who's on next week's show just yet. We're still working on that. But we will know soon. And when we do, you will know. Listeners, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Michael. It has been a pleasure hanging out with the both of you. Until next time, take care. And as always, please be excellent to each other.